Hey guys,
Hey, Tony.
how y'all doing?
Doing well.
It's Margaret. Margaret, are you connecting from your cabin or is that your house? I asked with your mouth.
It's a friend's house,
Oh, okay.
kind of cabin-y. Internet connection is not so great, so I may drop.
Hey Casey. Hey Jenny. Hey Wynn. Wynn is still connecting. Hey Aaron.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
How y'all doing? Hey Wynn.
Hey.
Dharma. Wynn is looking all spiffy with his haircut.
Thanks. Yeah, I cut my own hair for like the past couple of years. I just use a buzzer, and I grow out my hair until it gets too hot, and then I just shave it all off every time.
Hey guys.
Hey Gary.
Wow, look at Gary's mustache. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. I went out on the trail, and a little bit of trail flair came back with me on my how that worked.
So out of curiosity, I was cleaning out my calendar a little bit and found that I had sort of lingering 3 different invitations to these meetings, and I think actually all of them are wrong.
Oh boy.
But I've got an SFEI one for the Join Me, I've got a Hangouts one, and I've got a conference call one.
Oh, that's
Am I correct? Am I correct in thinking that all those are expired, basically, old news?
No, you did. The one that says conference call, see invitation for connection info, where it has a Zoom link, that's real, and I see that you accepted the invitation, so
Okay.
you're still on that one.
Yeah, I've got that one.
Yeah, so that's the information I gave to you just now.
Excellent. All right, I'll get rid of the other 2 then.
I'm experiencing the same thing, so I'm going to go ahead and delete, I think, the Join Me meeting one as well.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah, those are defunct. Sorry about all of the confusion. It's a symptom of COVID making online adjustments, I guess.
Totally.
So I should note that we are recording this call, and that was it. I think actually we recorded the past calls too, but didn't make an announcement about it. The default. It's something that Nick Moderano suggested that we actually take the recordings and upload them onto the YouTube site associated with the Monitoring Council. So just FYI, this conversation will be made more public than usual. And I should, maybe we can begin by just asking if you have any objections to let's say the past meeting also being uploaded, since I think we have those recordings as well. I know it's kind of after the fact. We can hold those back if anyone has any concerns, or we can feel free to kind of outfit the site with a few more past recordings.
Yeah, no concerns on my part.
I don't think you were here, Aaron. Were you? Were you at the last meeting?
Oh, sorry. I mean for this one. No, I missed the last one.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks. It's good to know. It's good to know that's okay. If anyone has any concerns, you can voice them to me or Wynn now or soon thereafter. But we'd like to deliver this to Nick.
Thanks for the warning, Tony.
Yeah. I think you should probably cut down on the profanity, Gary.
Reduce the likelihood of saying dumb and offensive things for sure.
Yes.
We do get a little trashy on this channel, so your listeners.
Ah, ha, ha.
Somebody had to say it.
So Win, would you like me to share my page, or do you want to do it?
Today I brought up 2 windows, so I can do it. Let me
Okay,
see.
cool.
I think that's the thing. Okay. Yes. Cool. All right. So thank you everybody for coming today. We got a good group of folks. We have some new faces. We'll have some new fun things to do today too. So the agenda that I'm gonna propose is that we do a check-in. And I think today we'll kind of have a little bit of a structure with our check-in. So each person introduce yourself. If you have any trashy updates, anything in the world of trash that you want to update the group on, and anything you'd like to add to the agenda. So maybe we'll start with that. And I have the agenda up here so that you can see what we already have proposed. Yes, I could start. So I'm Win. I'm a PhD student at UC Riverside. I study trash. That's my main passion in life. Been studying trash now for about the last 6 years. Let's see, trashy update. Well, so one thing that happened not too long ago was that Literati released their data open source.
Good for them.
Yeah, they released about 1 million data points. It was like the most exciting thing that happened in the year of 2020 for me.
Wow. Yeah.
I was really excited about it. So you can access Literati's data now for the whole world. I'm trying to wrap my head around what kind of questions I can ask about that. And I guess I wrote the agenda, so I don't have any other additions for the agenda.
I'll go ahead and tack things on. So I'm Tony Hale. I am a program director for environmental informatics at the San Francisco Estuary Institute. I just realized my name is Tech SFEI, so I'm going to have to rename myself. But I, along with Win, am the co-lead for this work group. And I guess as far as updates goes, we've been working with Emma Marshall at UC EPA and have completed a chapter for the trash monitoring playbook on the escape trash assessment protocol that Margaret works with. And so that is done as of today. So really happy about being able to turn that in. Yeah, I guess that's a big update to share. Anyone else like to introduce themselves?
Yeah, I'm Aaron. I work for the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta Conservancy, and part of my roles there is to sort of organize and run our trash cleanups a couple times a year and citizen science trash monitoring program. That's just in its sort of embryonic stage. I don't have any specific trashy updates other than everything is canceled on my end. I did have kind of a question for the group, and that is, as I've been walking around recently, I've been seeing masks showing up in gutters and stuff like that. And I was just kind of wondering if anybody knows of anybody who's like sort of tracking the emergence and movement of masks through.
We talked a little bit about that. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that at the last work group meeting. Cool. That is, who was it who who was it who said that she was interested in studying the rise of certain COVID-related trash, gloves and masks? I can't remember her name.
Jenny.
Was it Jenny?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I can go ahead and introduce myself next. I'm Jenny Hart. I'm the plastic pollution coordinator at Surfrider. And yeah, we recently updated, we've got our own cleanup database. So I help run like our national beach cleanup program. And so we added all of, we call them our COVID priority items, but it's PPE specific stuff so that we can start tracking increases, where the items are found, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, that's, I guess, the same trashy update as I had last time.
So Aaron,
Cool.
you should
Thanks.
get in touch.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to know that someone else has, thought of this.
Sherry Lipia at NOAA said that they're adding those kind of PPE items to their data card now. So, and there's this guy out at one of the universities in Louisiana, this professor who has like a global study where he's asking people to track PPE items that they see. So anyways, if you're interested in either of those, I can get you connected. Sherry.
Cool.
Just out of curiosity, does anyone know if the standard kind of blue mask that you see issued as a kind of disposable mask, what type of material that is? I've never touched them before, so I don't know. Are they nylon? Are they paper? They look like paper, but because I think that the material is so important as far as the impact of these objects. Latex gloves, if they are truly latex formulated, then that's essentially a form of rubber, so it's not going to have as much of an impact on the environment. The masks, if they are paper product, then they will degrade. But Margaret's shaking her head. So yeah, I'd be interested to know if people know about what material they are.
They're paper-like, but they are not paper. I think it's going to be one of those matrices, with a plastic
Yeah.
matrix. Yeah. And I think pretty much all the gloves that I see around are nitrile, not latex.
Okay.
Hey folks, I'll go. I'm Gary Conley with Second Nature. I lead the science team here. We do a lot of work helping communities on the Central Coast deal with their trash problems and developing software to try to turn kind of piles of data into useful information for making decisions about where they allocate their resources, where the biggest problems are, et cetera. Update-wise, the last couple of weeks, we've made some pretty good strides for integrating a different method of trash data capture into our software tools and platform, wherein we're using mounted camera on a vehicle to capture imagery as we go, associating what you see in the imagery via a machine learning algorithm to identify which pixels are trash, which pixels are not trash, and calculating the volume of trash per that field of view, and also what the kind of the OVTA category, the associated OVTA category for each of those segments. So we're we're working with Fusco Engineering, and we've got kind of like the pilot level application to capture data using that method and a workflow to get that up into software tools to process all of those spatial data automatically. So more to come on that, but we're just excited that we actually made it work for the first go.
Is that video or stills?
Stills, just like kind of burst mode. It just that was just like figuring that bit out. Like, well, how fast do you drive, and how quick do you have to take imagery so you just don't get that much overlap, but you don't miss spaces either. Yeah. So far, so good.
This is Jarma Bennett, and I work at in the information or Office of Information Management and Analysis at the Water Board. I don't really have any trashy updates, and I don't have updates to the agenda, but I was wondering if you could remind me what BOI stands for.
That is the Benioff Ocean Institute. They are a group out at UC Santa Barbara, and they are investing. They recently invested, I think, like $5 million into trash capture in rivers, and they have a division in that that's focused on artificial intelligence.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Casey, and this is my first meeting. I'm super excited to be working with a bunch of other people who are interested in trash. I am the Coastal Programs Coordinator at the North Coast Environmental Center in Humboldt County, and I coordinate Adopt a Beach and Adopt a Block, and we have trash cleanup events. A recent trashy update is that since we started using the NOAA app to collect debris data, my volunteers have been getting a lot more engaged and excited, and we've just been working really well to have people reporting large debris to us and then sending out volunteers to get the debris off the beaches. So that's been a really exciting development.
Hi everyone, this is Jana Tang. I'm a surface water associate for Michael Baker International, and we provide a lot of services that help municipalities and larger agencies comply with trash regulations across the state. I mainly focus up in trash regulations in the Bay Area, but we also do projects in Southern California and various other agencies within the state as well. So really interested and really excited for all the things this work group is doing, but I don't have any particular updates to share.
This is Margaret. I'm with the US EPA, but up here in Seattle. I think I haven't mentioned that I have mostly transitioned the sort of lead on ETAP, the draft escape trash assessment protocol. I've been one of the leaders for a couple of years, over to some other folks at EPA, just because I need to take a little break. And as you might expect, anytime there's a change in regime, they're now questioning, do we need to call it an escape? Do we need to call it, should we call it litter? So we're going through that predictable kind of thing. But anyway, they're also exploring some of the things we explored a couple of years ago, but things change. So maybe now is the right time to get our card into the marine debris track. I don't know. So we're still going forward. Headquarters still excited, but I'm not quite as much at the helm as I have been.
Who is at the helm, Margaret? Just so I know.
Well, Emma Mascal, who I think you've been dealing with,
Okay.
Continuing and sort of being now officially project manager.
Okay.
And then folks in region 3 and 4 are getting sort of more active, and they're the ones who are reimagining the name. So we'll see what they settle on. Region 3 being Mid-Atlantic and 4 being southeast, sort of Alabama, Georgia, kind of Florida.
All right, I think we have everybody. So start stepping through our agenda. I just added in, I had one more idea I wanted to bring up to the group about the YouTube. Tony, do you know if it's possible for us to like censor the YouTube video? Like if somebody does say something that like they don't want, but we don't want to take out the whole thing, or maybe it's just easier just to like not post that video at all. I'm
happy.
sure.
Yeah, I think if someone has a specific objection to, let's say there was some pre-publication sort of thing that they didn't want out there, or they said, some kind of statement that they don't stand by, then we can go ahead and I'm happy if you can name the specific thing. I can go into the video and edit it out before sending it to Nick.
Okay. So that's the easiest way to do it, probably.
Yeah, just slicing that piece out. But if it's
Yeah.
the entire meeting, if like there was a whole subject covered, then we probably just want to say, let's not post it.
Yeah. Okay. That was just one thing I wanted to figure out. All right. So as a group, we've been reassessing the charter of the Water Quality Monitoring Council, and so I'll just go here to take a look. I don't know if people have had enough time to take a look at it. I know it's just been like a month. I did go through it and added some comments, and I noticed Gary added some other comments too. There's some things that I noticed that I still need to do some research on before it's like a finalized new proposal for amendments to the charter. Just to remind everybody, one of the thing that really sprouted this off to reassess our charter was the racial injustices against Black people and the police shootings. And we thought that it would be a good idea for us to take a look at ourselves and our policy and our housekeeping by starting with this charter, and also starting by looking at our group and figure out if there are some ways that we can improve how we're operating right now to be more actively against racism and other injustices in our country. So, I guess my first question to the group is has everybody had time to look at this? Who wants to look at it? Or has anybody not had time to look at it that would like to look at it? I guess that's my real question. Do we want more time on this? Because I did tell the leads that we were gonna send this to them. I think today, but I can push it back another month if people want some more time.
When I think I was on the same page as you, I was looking through it and I had flagged things on my own notebook to kind of be researching through, and really didn't get to thoroughly go through that, but really looking for just those examples and guidelines and what we can incorporate, which is kind of what I was looking for. But
okay,
yeah.
It sounds like maybe 1 more month would be good to actually go through and make some solid recommendations. Once I started digging into it, I realized there's more things to look into and learn more about than I had initially thought might be there. And so yeah. So okay, so I will I'll let the leads know that we're gonna continue working on this over the course of the next month. And some of the things that I flagged, I don't know if you want to share it too, Jana, things that you kind of flagged. But one of them that I noticed is kind of this, and it does seem like this is one of the focuses of our group, is that we're focusing on the policy and decision makers, and we're focusing on catering to them. But I think, at least in the way that the charter is set up, there's not an explicit inclusion of the stakeholders, of the people who are being affected by the problem, and not an explicit what am I trying to say? Like, it is a declaration that it's our obligation to make sure that we're helping them out by what we're doing. Because I mean, we can make policies all we want, but if they're not improving the conditions of people's lives, then I don't know what they're really all that good for. So that was kind of the one big thing that I was like, oh man, I really need to look into this more and think about how we can do that. And I remember from our last call, some of you brought up the fact that when we're engaging with stakeholders, we don't want to be also causing them to do a bunch of work for us, you know, making their lives harder by having them, you know, fill out documents or whatever. So I'm really thinking about that a lot and trying to think how we can formulate this so that we are aligning our objectives with helping stakeholders without causing an undue burden on them.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Wynn, and I applaud you for calling our attention to this. Just from the other side, that is, as far as drafting this and putting it out there, I think it was seen as a starting point, not an end point. We wanted to get something going to represent the work that we're doing. But I think that among the blind spots that you're identifying here is that I think I'm looking now at Aaron really primarily at this point, as well as people like Jenny and others who have a deep stake in empowering different community-based organizations and, you know, volunteer groups, because I think that where this maybe needs to be beefed up is talking about how the data and tools can explicitly empower individuals and community members versus, you know, kind of the presumption of agencies and policy makers and things like that. So I think that stakeholders is fine as a generic term, but we might want to explicitly mention like community-based organizations, because I think that it's important, because when you're talking about CBOs and individuals, the data that we're furnishing will be of a different nature than data that are used in conjunction with, let's say, policies when it comes to certain, even the kind of certain burdens of detail and rigor, because the more rigorous it gets, the more inaccessible it can sometimes become, and the presumption of training is greater. So there's just, I think, some things that we can daylight and make very explicit about who the work group is serving. But we should also think carefully about our specific role. So it's really good that we're going back to the main charter, but this group, this subcommittee in particular, can think carefully about our responsibilities to ensure that the data that we're furnishing or helping to facilitate or what have you has been considered carefully through an anti-racist lens. So I think that it's a challenge for us that we haven't yet worked out, but I brought this up before, where sometimes we can conflate people and the trash, because a lot of the trash the trash that we're usually handling is anthropogenic, and it is driven at least in part by people's individual actions. But we can sometimes I've seen it implicit within studies, is that certain people are trashier than other people, you know, and so the idea of trashy people and trash itself is often conflated, and we need to make sure that we interrogate that elision of the two things and make sure that the data that we're furnishing gives enough context and maybe enough baseline information so that it doesn't invite misinterpretation, either by those policymakers or even by the community themselves, so that we can, you know, an example being, for instance, for instance, if you're dealing with a municipality and an urban footprint, that if you're talking about trash hotspots, you might also include street sweeper patterns, and you might start to see gaps in either frequency or coverage of the street sweepers and say, oh, well, of course this area is trashier because the street sweepers don't go there as often, or they never reach those areas because they are underpopulated, but also underserved. So I think that we can think about what are the things that increase trash, but also what are the mitigating things that are sometimes not present that would reduce the amount of escape trash in certain areas. So that's kind of, I would say, the challenge I would want to lay forth specific to our subcommittee. It may not make its way deeply explained and detailed in this charter, but we should have clear in the way that we conduct ourselves to make explicit those particular contextual data that can help us to interpret the data that we're putting out there.
I can see that being really an important thing for the rest of the groups to consider as well. I mean, the homeless subcommittee is dealing with like some of the most vulnerable people in our state, in our country. Citizen science group is often working with people who are marginalized and trying to, find a voice by contributing to their science and stuff too. So I mean, I think this. What I'm saying is, I think this should definitely get into the main charter. I'll work on trying to incorporate that into while I'm editing it as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Gina, I don't know if you had any other kind of big takeaways from your reading, or Gary. I don't know if there's anything you want to bring up to the whole group to think about or discuss.
Yeah, not particularly for me. I think it just opened a lot of doors for me to continue to do some research before I can provide solid input.
Right.
Another thing that we talked about, I know I'm repeating myself from last meetings, but I think that we need to make sure that we have the people at the table who need to be here to help inform how to interpret data that have a sociological bent to it. Because often we think like, oh, it's geophysical, right? It's the trash that we see, it is what it is. But when you're talking about the blending of behavior and also economic patterns and a lot of other things, we need to have the socioeconomic kind of expertise of data interpretation. Because I think that we can presume that we can do this ourselves, but to a certain extent, we need the expertise present to help us do that.
Yeah. Do you think that's, we should try to get somebody in on, like, they would be a part of our monthly meetings, or you think it's more of kind of like what we're doing right now with the trash taxonomy, where we're trying to reach out to other groups to get that expanded perspective?
If we can ideally get expertise on board permanently, that'd be great. But barring that, I think that we can do it on a project by project basis. But I guess what I'm calling to mind is that we need to recognize it first as a gap. If we don't see it as a gap, then we're never going to fill it. So if we agree, and I'm putting my opinion out there, but if we agree that it is something to address, then we can make it part of our regular modus operandi. But that's just it'd be good for us to have to believe that it is to at least poll whether we believe that.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with you. I'm 100% on that. How do other people feel?
Yeah, I mean, there's some unknowns up there, and this group with the expertise that we bring probably has some blind spots that we're not quite aware of. Tony sort of pointed out, the best direction to try to identify them, I think. When I read it, I was and my contributions are sort of just along the lines of the easier problem of explicitly articulating our stance on inclusiveness. And I think this is the much more difficult problem to deal with because we're talking about use and interpretation of data. And the reality is if we're working towards putting data together that people can use to try to understand how things are functioning out in the world, we're never going to completely eliminate the risk that people are going to arrive at a conclusion that is somehow antithetical to what this group believes. But we just need to try to do the best we can, like Tony said, to provide the context to try to minimize either incorrect interpretation, associations that aren't necessarily causal, or described in a way that is complete enough to be useful. So that's just going to be some careful wordsmithing, and hopefully having somebody on the committee like that can sort of help us identify what those blind spots are in the guidance that we might want to provide, and even other additional contextual information that we would want to encourage data generators to provide, or help with distribution of data. I guess I'm just saying, it seems like we can't eliminate that problem completely, but we can definitely help minimize it more than we are right now.
Yeah, I don't think we can eliminate the problem, but what we can, our role is that we can ensure that we can package up data that can help to provide the context for the interpretation. If you don't have the data to provide the context, then it leaves more to chance as far as jumping to certain conclusions.
Yeah.
So an example would be, as part of a standard package, we could at the very least include disadvantaged communities identified. We could include, if we solicited the information, we could provide patterns of trash pickup, both public receptacle pickup as well as private. It would be good to see the service patterns so that you can understand kind of where those gaps are in the service. So there's stuff that we could do extra to solicit, but then there are other data that are readily available, like the disadvantaged community mapping or economic pattern mapping by parcel. So there's stuff that we could provide as part of a standard layer package, but then there's other stuff that could be solicited as well.
Yeah, I think it would be great to try to find somebody. I currently don't know anybody who is like embedded in socioeconomic study or has that like skill set and does the trash stuff. So we may end up needing to reach out beyond just the trash community, because that's kind of a blind spot in trash research in general. From what I can tell, is I don't even know if there's been a study that demonstrates that when you have that you have like inequality in services in the same cities even. But I'm sure that I know that is happening. I've done a little bit of study myself to look into that, and I've been able to detect that using the environmental justice index, or there's like an environmental impact index that looks at a bunch of different socioeconomic factors and correlate that to the density of trash in different areas. I did that during one of the trash hackathons, so I know that that's happening. But I don't know of the people who are really doing that specifically.
So Tom Novotny is a socioeconomist who works out of Southern California. I think he's at University of San Diego or UCSD. And he is leading a new study on the impact of tobacco waste on TPW, tobacco product waste, on economic activity. So looking at patterns of recreation and other economic generators and correlating that with the presence or absence of TPW. So that's something that's kind of new and underway. And so we could hook up with him. I'm on the, I guess, for full disclosure, I'm on the technical advisory committee for that. So cool. That's something that we could tap and see if either he or other members of the TAC might be available and willing to join us either on a regular basis or a regular, occasional, or project-based kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be great. If you could connect us to them and figure out how they would best like to be connected. Yeah, that reminds me, there's one more person, I think their name's Chris Schwartz, that's done a littering behavior study for Keep America Beautiful. I'll reach out to them. Okay. Great. Yeah, that's a great input. Before I move on, is there anything else folks would like to talk about on the group assessment of the charter? Sounds like we'll have another month, so I'll add it to the agenda for next month too, or maybe let's see. Next month, I was going to have the AI people come out and give a presentation to us. So maybe we'll do that more through email.
That sounds good. It's hard to keep the ball rolling with it when it comes to the charter. Just, you know, in my experience, the charter has been drafted since April of last year.
Yeah.
So it's been floating out there for a while, and trying to get people to engage on it has been difficult in a sustained way. But
Yeah.
hopefully we can keep it rolling.
Yeah, we will. All right. Cool. So I'll move on to the next thing. So we have the trash taxonomy paper, which several of you are co-authors on. We had our first meeting. It's probably going to be our only meeting. If there's anybody, our only like on-call meeting, but we did write up notes for the agenda. And so I know some of you were hoping to be co-authors, but couldn't make it to that meeting. So if that's the case, hopefully you got the agenda, and we'll be sending out next steps soon to you. But if you didn't get the agenda or are unsure of what things mean in the meeting notes, then please reach out and we'll clarify any of that you missed.
Yeah, thank you, Wynn, and I really regret that I could not attend, but I will be chiming in.
Okay.
Yeah, Wynn, I got the agenda and meeting notes that Hannah sent out, but I couldn't access them. It said I had to request permission, and I sent a request, but I'm not sure if I ever got anything back. I'm just wondering if you knew anything about access.
I'll follow up with Hannah. I don't know why you wouldn't have been able to access them. I think she might have set it up where you have to like input all of the people. So maybe she just didn't, maybe she miswrote your email or something like that. So
It's also entirely possible that Google just hates me. So
yeah, I'll make sure you get that.
Thanks.
Some way. I have access, so if nothing else, I'll just forward it to you. Okay. So our next thing, we're working on a survey to send to Code for America and co-authors. I won't go through that whole survey. We only got like 15 more minutes. So that is the link where the survey is if you'd like to engage on the survey that's going to be sent to Code for America and to the rest of the, I guess for this group, it's really about how do we formulate this survey to be sent to Code for America so that we can get a input from a broader group of people than we have in this room, and get specific insight into how we could make the findings of our trash taxonomy and the structure of our trash taxonomy more available and accessible and useful to people people who need it. All right. And then, so I just got confirmation from the Benioff Ocean Institute they have a project right now where they're developing trash detection, artificial intelligence. We have a lot of people in this group who are also doing that. And so we wanted to invite them to give a presentation on what they're up to. And I think we'll have some good discussion from that, talking about the different projects that we're working on and how we can collaborate to improve and work together to make better artificial intelligence and stuff. So that'll be happening next week, or sorry, not next week, next month. And then I guess the last thing I wanted to introduce, and maybe this really is for next month too, but I think at this stage, so the trash taxonomy has kind of been at the forefront of our projects, but now that's getting wound up. We've already made a website. We're going to be inputting that and showcasing it with Ross as part of the Water Quality Monitoring Council website. So I think for this group's purposes, that project is kind of wrapping up, and now we have the opportunity to focus on other projects. And so I think this might be a good time to maybe discuss the next steps for that. I'm sure you guys have some ideas.
I have two ideas to consider.
Okay.
One would be going back to what you said at the most exciting development of 2020, which isn't a vaccine. It's not a vaccine for COVID, unfortunately.
Wish it was.
Yeah. But it's the next most important thing, which is Literati's cache of data. I think it would be potentially useful to think about, to put our heads together and think about ways that those data could be paired up with other data to be made useful, or to offer some insights about trash patterns, trash loads. It would at least be a good exercise to understand what the limitations are of such a data set, what additional information could be paired with it to make it more useful. Because I think that it could be just an occasion for us to focus on a huge data set with huge potential, and to talk about ways that we can make use of it, whether it's about connecting it to artificial intelligence and kind of using it as either the inference source or a training source. But there's, I think, a lot that we could make out of this now open source data set. And so there's probably a whole multiple branches of different projects that could emerge from that. So that's one idea. That's one potential direction we could go. Another more narrow focus would be to reach back and communicate with the homelessness group, because I know have sent out or are sending out, I don't know what the status is, but sending out a survey that is a fairly broad survey designed to solicit information from different municipalities, information and data. So some of it, in other words, is just kind of raw data, unprocessed. Others is maybe more analysis. But I think it would be useful for us to partner with them to make use of whatever information they're receiving. Not that they have necessarily, called for our assistance in analyzing it, but this is kind of where our expertise might be best put to use, is thinking about how best to structure the data that they've received, how best to facilitate derived analyses from those data. So, I think that we can maybe partner productively with that homelessness group and at least see if they're interested in applying some of our skills to whatever results they've gotten. So those are two ideas that could be a launching pad to a number of other smaller projects.
Are there any other ideas for launchpad projects? Jarma, how are things going with seeding and getting trash data spooled up there?
I haven't been working on that, and maybe that's something that I should pick back up.
Okay.
Is that one other potential direction is a focus on the sort of the data integration and practicalities of doing that? I'm not sure where we landed on that. I mean, Tony and I were at the Nature Conservancy IDEO workshop a few weeks ago. And there were some really great ideas along these lines of you know, how we bring these different disparate types of trash data together. And so they would be great partners for working towards some real practical solutions on that front also.
I think, Gary, that would be my vote for number one, ahead of the other ideas I tossed out. So yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That said, I do love the literati idea just because it's like, holy cow, amazing new data set. It seems like even if it's number two, we could put effort towards like assessing the viability of gaining, you know, real inferences from that data set. It would be a bunch of work to actually do it, but sort of like a cursory look at those data to assess their capabilities would be neat.
Yeah.
Or combining, like looking at the literati data and how it would fit into CEDN.
Right, they could sort of, these could overlap.
Yeah.
I think Jarma, just I would want to really hear from Wynn, who's taken a look at the data, I assume, since it's the most important event of his life. But that I would assume that one key limitation as far as the literati data as it stands and the CEDN data structure is that there really isn't a very clear place in CEDN for binary objects, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think literati data are a bunch of photographs, as well as some structured annotation. So
Yeah.
I don't know how that fits in with a CEDN integration.
They're not providing the photographs, so that hasn't been made open.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay.
They're only providing the labels. I think that they have an artificial intelligence that goes through and auto labels their images now. So
Okay.
I think that's where that's where this huge data set is like being generated from. It's actually derived from the AI.
Understood.
And it's every single piece of trash has a timestamp and a lat long, and then an identity, the material, item, and brand type.
Okay.
So the data is going to be like, it's actually a really interesting statistical problem, and that's why I'm super excited about it this year, because you have people collecting data with whatever methodology they want. And that's the biggest challenge in assessing this data set is like, I don't know if Joe Schmo went out there and had a war on Coca-Cola bottles and only reported all the Coca-Cola bottles they saw, and Sally Mae really didn't like cigarette butts and focused on that. And I don't actually know how to fix that problem, how to figure out what is the most abundant type of trash when you potentially have those huge biases in your data set. And I know people are doing that because there's people online on Twitter who are like, I'm going to collect 1 million cigarette butts this year and tag every one of them with literati. But there's got to be a statistical way of figuring out those biases and then correcting for them. And that's kind of the cool challenge, I think, that maybe that's the most interesting one to me right now.
I think that if we were able, I agree with you, Wynn, that you can make those determinations about bias, but it would make it a lot easier if we had at least some limited access to a subset of the images to be able to, you know, like for instance, if someone says I'm going to collect 1 million cigarette butts and they do that, and you're able to then ground truth some of the observations with images, and to say like, oh, look at that, it was like 2 cigarette butts and then like 3 3 cans of Coke, not Pepsi. So that other person didn't find that interesting.
Right.
And then, you know, and then like a bunch of paper trash too in a plastic bag. And so you're
Right.
able to say, oh, well, there's actually at least a high degree of ancillary trash for every cigarette butt you find, you know.
Mhm.
And it was very rare to ever find a cigarette butt without other trash accompanying it. So it would be
Right.
good to be able to not necessarily have access to the full set of photography, but if we had a kind of on-demand or a limited set of corroborating imagery, that would tell us a lot that we could maybe then
Yeah.
derive stats from.
I mean, I think they would definitely give us something like that. They've given me subsets of their data set with the imagery several times before. So I'm sure if I asked them and told them, you know, we have the amazing trash data group here with all these famous people, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, how can we get you the data as quick as possible?
I think, but when I think the questions that you were bringing up just a moment ago, those are still pretty relevant, right? Like if this, like cursory analysis, if it's like a meta level analysis, right, that identifies the potential capabilities, possible value of ancillary data, et cetera, for the literati data would be a good place to start, but we could also start ticking down the list of, it's essentially trying to understand what would be required and how applicable are each of these types of data for addressing certain questions.
Yeah.
That would have some value in itself, I think. And it would also inform this data integration problem and possibly inform a deeper analysis that would allow us to actually try to gain some inference from, say, the literati data set for density or types of trash.
If we can statistically crack how to accurately understand this data set, I think we'll be able to, like, whatever model that is to do that should be applicable for like all of the other methodological problems that we have in other data sets, because this one is definitely the hardest. It's like the most basic, like zero methodology. There is nothing controlled. What do you do? How
And
do you
literati
deal?
is big. That's the main attribute. It's tons of data. And so that in itself, right, makes it such that what you're describing with biases in the data, inaccuracies, et cetera, if the signal is strong enough, well, I mean, you can have a weaker signal for whatever we're interested in with, you know, more sophisticated techniques like machine learning based, AI based. We would have a greater capacity to detect that signal just by reason of having so much information contained in those data.
Right.
Yeah.
But nobody knows how to do that in this group, I don't think, quite yet.
There's also a very basic idea is to leverage it as a least common denominator approach. That is, because we don't have any evidence of the methodology, but we do know that it has item-specific identification. You can say that you can't say anything about the overall trash load, perhaps. That is how much trash there was in any given area. But what you can say is that you did find this particular item. You don't know about the bias of exclusion, the filtering bias, right? But what you can say is that if you are interested in seeing how, you know, whether you have tobacco trash or Coca-Cola cans in this area, you can at least get a reading of that. But you shouldn't we can also say you shouldn't read into it as far as how big the overall trash load is on the basis of these, unless we can do some analysis through inferencing the source imagery to be able to give us that. But at the very least, what we can do is probably come up with an assumption of bias. That is to say that someone wasn't necessarily exhaustive in how they identified things, but came in with the mission to identify at least certain things. And so if you are interested in seeing where these items are, you can find that. But you can't necessarily say that it is conclusive, comprehensive, or can say much about the larger trash load.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. This is really exciting. There's a lot of things to think about for this. This is gonna be cool. It's gonna be a cool problem. I guess as like a first step, I can reach out to Literati and just ask them what data they're willing to share with us, figure out, and let them know that we would like to integrate or see if we can integrate their data into CDN. I think they would be really excited about that. I know they're co-authoring the trash taxonomy paper with us. I don't know if I told you guys that before, but they're co-authors on that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Too. And they've created their own trash taxonomy as well. So they're great folks and love to work with them some more. All right, so I think we have some next steps. We're about at time. Oh, we're already a minute over. Sorry if anybody has to go. Thanks for coming. But yeah, so I guess the next things, this is following over from last time. I still need to send Margaret some information about how to create a visual for the trash taxonomy. We need to follow up with Ross. This is going to be at a later date to update the website with trash taxonomy. Tony's going to reach out to, I think you said Tom at UCSD. I'm going to reach out to Chris to try to get some more socioeconomic perspective into our group. And then I'll reach out to Literati. And then next month, we'll have our meeting with the AI people, and I'm sure that'll elicit a bunch of additional new ideas. Maybe we'll incorporate some AI into this like next project of in understanding Literati's data set and fitting it into CETA. And I'm sure there's like tons of options for that. So yeah, all right. Anything else I missed there for next steps?
Every time you say AI people, I just have this vision of our future robot overlords coming to tell us how it's going to be.
I already kind of feel like one of them. I feel like an AI person. I'm like on my computer 24/7 these days. I'm part cyborg, really.
I think that's a lot of us. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone. This has been great.
Thanks, Wynn.
We'll see you all next month.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Thanks, Wynn.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks,
Goodbye.
everybody.